And so today on Web Piano Academy, I have the pleasure of having again as a guest Sam Reti, who is the founder of Musia, and which is a platform where they offer online lessons. And I met Sam time ago during the pandemic, actually,
Yep.
because we were in need of online lessons, and he was kindly offering his platform to music teachers. And I interviewed him a few years ago. I think it was
Yeah.
2020, 2021, something like that.
Yeah.
And so today I'm going to talk to Sam about um, how he has evolved as a musicpreneur in time, and how it started and all those beautiful things. Now, tell me a little bit, at what point are you right now with your company?
Yeah. So Musi's been growing constantly since really we got lucky. I hate saying the pandemic was lucky, but we rolled out Musi on January 10th, 2020. And I always joke that like the first week there was basically like one teacher on the platform, and then all of a sudden overnight there was basically hundreds of teachers, and now we're at thousands and there's tens of thousands of users on the platform. Um, we've done hundreds of thousands of lessons, so it's just constantly been growing. And I still run the whole I'm still in charge of the business. We're family owned, so my dad and I are the two co-founders of the company, and we've got a team under us that manages a lot of the other stuff. But when the big decisions are made, it's the two of us sit down and have a discussion, and still that's sort of the format of making things happen. It's been, very lucky. We've been able to just grow the business organically, and we've been adding tons of features. That's sort of, part of Musi is just building out more tools and resources for teachers to be able to execute. When we started, we were only online lessons. Now we do in-person lessons, hybrid lessons, group classes, whole bunch of different things. There's an entire set of practice tools built for students. So Musi's really evolved quite a lot over the last couple of years, and
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun.
Yes, I do remember when you started, and I do remember it was I think March or April 2020 when I met you,
Yeah.
and but honestly, I think there is this type of. You started in January. I wrote a book with a friend of mine in also in January. It
Oh,
was in
cool.
January. I had this idea about. No school today, and it's based on kids who have to stay home because there is no school all of a
Yeah.
sudden. And so we wrote the book. We published the book, I think it was February 2020.
Oh,
And
cool.
it's based on Schumann Opus 15, right? Scenes from a childhood. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
The book felt so appropriate for
Yeah,
that.
right. Yeah, people always think that we saw the pandemic happen and then we built Musi. We built Musi and then the pandemic happened, and it's
Yeah,
just like the timing is just very coincidental and
I do
weird.
think that there is a type of intuition that we have, that we kind of feel certain things and we know we should do it, and then we
Yeah.
don't know. We
Oh,
don't know
definitely.
why. We
Yeah,
don't know.
I think in general, I was always seeing the trends of technology moving towards online teaching. Without the pandemic, we still would have got here, but it would have taken 5 or 10
Yeah.
extra years. So we were just trying to be ahead of the curve anyway. And then it just took off like a spaceship. So
Yeah.
but I definitely think, it's like the idea that luck, it's really preparation and opportunity. When they meet, that is luck. So that's sort of how I think about these things, is that really it's years of building other softwares, talking to teachers and building out products and really learning the industry, and then seeing where those trends were pushing. Of course, no one knew the pandemic was going to happen, but that there was something in the air. And, we always joke that in January, we had this idea for like a marketplace thing. And then by February, we had basically a completely different product because the whole landscape had shifted. But the fundamentals of what we were doing were the same, is online education. So it was, it's a little bit of luck and a little bit of good fortune.
I had on this channel on Web Piano Academy, I had 100 subscribers in February 2020, and I do remember that I was so happy because I could have my own username, I can add that, and I was so happy. And now we are at 13,000, and it feels that the pandemic has helped somehow.
Isn't it funny? Like, I hate saying it helped,
Yes.
but at the same time, I think the good thing is that, like you were saying, is like for what you were doing with the book and what we were doing with Musi, is it was the right thing at the right time. And the nice thing is we had the sort of understanding of the industry and the understanding of the world to be able to help when needed. And for like 9 months, Musi was just completely free. And so that was because really we were just more concerned about making sure businesses didn't shut down. We weren't so interested in just growing our business because we were seeing, everyone in a panic. And once the panic settled, then it was like, okay, how do we actually turn this thing into, a real company and actually make this into a living? And that's what the last 3-4 years have turned into. But yeah, it's a pretty cool experience.
Yes. So I know. Tell me a little bit about how you see yourself as a musicpreneur, as a musician who is an entrepreneur, and has invested. You invest a lot of time in that and efforts, and I know that because I do.
You're on the same train, right?
Yes. So how do you develop your ideas, or how do you work on your business while taking care of yourself as a person?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's this funny video that's like all about work-life balance, and basically the gist of the video is that if there's a balance, then there's a problem, and really you should be living life more than you should be working. And honestly, I love that. But at the same time, when you are running your own business and you're sort of in charge of everything, it's a lot easier said than done. So I'm the guiltiest of spending way too much time working. I mean, my dad and I would, whenever we're together, like, if I'm over back in Boston visiting or something, we'll spend basically the whole family time working on things, and it can get a little frustrating for everybody else. But I think there's sort of two ways to look at it. The way I look at it is I'm trying to build something massive, something way bigger than myself. And I think that you have to sacrifice a lot to be able to do that. For the first couple of years of Musi, I didn't take any salary. Like, I did not get paid to do the work. And I think people don't really realize that that's the reality of these kinds of things, is that there isn't just, it's not just reams of cash flowing through that you get to live some lavish lifestyle. I mean, that's the whole point, is you're pushing to get to those points, but it takes years. And we even had a product before Musi that ran for 4 years. And that never really made it to, any substantial place. And we had to shut that down and then build Musi. So, I'm almost 10 years in to this company. And so, now 10 years, if you told me when I started it was going to take 10 years for me to like see the bear fruit on the other end, then I probably would never have done this in the first place, because it's an insane amount of effort and work to get there. But at the same time, 10 years feels like a blink of an eye, and that it is absolutely worth it. And the amount of things I've learned along the way is exactly why I'm here now. And so, I do think it's important to have a balance. Like, personally, I do a lot of the cliche things. Like, I wake up every morning and I meditate for 10 to 20 minutes. Right? I read 20 pages in a book. I sit in that red chair behind me every morning and I meditate, and then I read. then I go to the gym. I'm currently training for a triathlon, so those gym sessions have gotten a lot harder. Um, and then then I get home from the gym and I get in my ice bath, and I do the ice bath for 10 minutes every day. And then then I have a breakfast, which is like a bowl of cereal with fruit, and then I start my day. And that if I don't start my day with that sequence of events, I know that my day is already lost to me. That it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, like this is not going to be a good day. Like I'm going to be all over the place. I'm not going to be able to focus. And I just know myself that I crave routine. And
Yeah.
so I have to have that routine, and I get all of that done before 9 a.m. So,
Yeah.
at 9 a.m., I'm standing right here at my desk. Everything is open and I'm ready to go. And then I work a typical day. I do it's not 9 to 5, it's more like 9 to 9. It's more like a 12 or 15-hour work day typically. And if I'm lucky enough to not be interrupted before 9 o'clock, that's pretty rare. But I have to have those sort of healthy habits built into my
Yes.
day. Otherwise, it's just not going to go well. And then in the evening, I have this portable sauna. And so I get in my portable sauna for 25 minutes and then take a shower, have dinner. And then I make sure there's always time to like play a video game or watch a TV show or read something more of my book or play my guitar. There has to be some personal, thing that I get to do every day as well. Otherwise it really starts to get, and for a long time I didn't do this. For the first couple of years at Musi, I was not this sort of set in my routine, and there was a lot more chaos, and it was hard to deal with. I'd be up in the middle of the night answering chat support messages, and I was eating horrible food, and the physical and the mental are so well linked together that if you're not really taking care of yourself, there's no way you can take care of a business. And,
Yeah.
I would see direct negative impacts at the company when I was not in a good headspace. And being the person in charge of the business, I mean, it's my responsibility to be in charge of myself, which then allows me to be in charge of the business. So it is cliche. It's all those typical like healthy habit things, but I mean, I can personally attest that they work. It's like you really need to kind of take care of yourself before you can even think about being
Yeah.
successful in a business.
Yeah, I've noticed myself that if I don't do the same
Yeah.
things, you don't not exactly in the same order, but
Yeah, you have that routine, right?
yeah, I have my own routine. I have my first coffee, because without my first coffee,
Yeah.
first coffee, and then meditate. I do intentional segmentation of my day,
Yep.
gratitude, meditation, compassion, forgiveness,
Yep.
vision for the future, all those type of things. And then I read, have proper breakfast,
Yep.
do my exercises and all those things. And then after that, then I'm ready,
Yeah.
to take care of students, of business planning, and business things.
Yeah.
If I don't have that, I know that I'm not going to be focused and
Yep.
grounded for whoever is talking to me. And I noticed that I can keep my space and my safe space if I
Yeah.
have this type of things right in the morning.
Yep.
I have my safe space, and whatever happens, I'm fine.
Yep.
I know that,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
that red chair is my safe space. That like when I'm sitting in that chair, it's like a little bubble. Like I'm like
yeah,
all is good in the world. Like I've got my time to take care of myself, and I think that's a really important aspect of being an entrepreneur in anything that you do. And like I said, it's your mental and physical are tied together so much that I think people underappreciate that. If you can work 15-hour days day in and day out, but you can only sustain that if you're actually taking care of yourself. And the
yeah,
reality is 15-hour work days.
yeah,
I remember seeing a video not that long ago where someone was talking about like young entrepreneurs being like, oh, I can't wait to start my own business so I can set my own hours and I can take off whatever time I want to take off. And it's like, yeah, that's not the truth. Like, that is not how it works. It's like, if there's a problem at 2 o'clock in the morning and you don't have employees to deal with that problem, then you get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and deal with the problem. You know, for the first couple of years in Musi, that was literally my day in and day out, was waking up in the middle of the night to answer chat supports from people in Australia, or, you know, before we had, you know, before we had like an infrastructure in place, then it's on you. But if I didn't do that stuff, I wouldn't have been able to grow the business to where it is now. So there's definitely a sacrifice, but you also have to, I think, understand that things take time. And I remember in college, I would see this poster that was like a straight line, and it was like what you think life is like, and then a line with like a bunch of squiggles in the middle, and it's like what life is really like. And I always remember it being like, no, I'm definitely the top line. Like, I can make it straight and perfect. And like, this furthest thing from the truth is I'm the definition of that bottom line, thinking it's going to go one way and then it just taking a hard left turn and then back over the other way. And you just have to be willing to kind of roll with the punches. And, you know, you have to be willing to also pivot and not be so attached to your own ideas that you're willing to see when something's going wrong. Like with our first product, it was called I Want to Practice. We ran that thing for 4 years. And at a certain point, we just had to admit that it wasn't working. And that's the hardest thing to do, is to be like, okay, we're shutting it down. Like, it's like, we now need to go and find something else. And, you know, I think it's also the perseverance of, you know, never giving up on what you really want in life that has led us here. Is that if we just, when we shut down I Want to Practice, and if we had just said, okay, I'm going to go get a regular job and we're done, no more music stuff, and I'll play my guitar in my free time and, you know, whatever, like, it's over, that would have been, I mean, to me personally, horrible. Like, I cannot envision myself working at a corporate office. I've done it and I hated it, so I never want to go back, you know? So that was enough for me to say, like, no, I need to build my own business. I know who I am and I know what I want out of life. And for me, being in charge of my own world is a massive part of that. But I have to be willing to accept all the negative things that come along the road too. And it's not so easy, but you'll kind of learn to deal with it.
Yes, but I don't think that projects that you did in the past were completely a failure. They taught you lessons. So
100%.
Right. So I when I did an entrepreneurship class in the university, I developed a project. I had a business plan, and well, I learned how to develop a business plan. I didn't. I couldn't implement that because it wasn't something that I could implement right away.
Right.
It is still there. Maybe I could do
go
that
back one day, right?
But I learned a lot through that.
Yeah.
And any failure, any rejection, any type of setback, it's always a lesson that you learn. And 100%. Then if you keep going, then and you keep envisioning something that it is. And I think the important thing as an entrepreneur is that you envision something that will serve others and not just your own needs, right? So we serve others even with this interview now, we are serving others and not just ourselves. So we're not just saying, oh yeah.
Like, oh, I'm so great, look at me. Like, yeah, that'd be a very boring interview to listen to, you know?
Yes.
I completely agree that, I mean, again, it is sort of those cliches, but they are a cliche for a reason, is they are true, is that you learn from failure. And, you know, my first company failed. My second product from that company never got released. We spent an entire year building a piece of software that never even came out. Then we realized, okay, that's not going to work. So we started working on a third company. We launched that. The original version of Musi was supposed to be a marketplace for like tutoring online. And we rolled that out in early January. And within a few days, we realized that we were going to need to transition over to not a marketplace, but being, you know, what we are now, and like a hub for education for you and your own students. And I basically spent the year of 2019 convincing my team that we should build this marketplace thing, and this marketplace was the greatest idea ever. And then literally a week after we launched it, I had to turn around to my team and be like, okay, hear me out. We're going to scrap everything that we just worked on. We're going to keep the core, but we're going to completely repackage it, completely redo it. And fortunately, they were willing to listen to me one last time, and that worked in our favor. But that's what I'm meaning about sort of being detached from your own ideas is, and like you were saying, if you're only doing it to serve yourself and you think that your ideas are the greatest thing in the world and that you're like angry at everybody else because they don't see how great your ideas are, that's your problem, not their problem. You know, and at a certain point you have to be willing to sort of look in the mirror and be like, okay, am I pitching this incorrectly? Like, is my idea great, but I'm maybe not explaining it clearly? Is that the problem? Is my idea not actually great, and I've sort of deluded myself into thinking that it's brilliant? You know, and so, and of course, you need data, and so you know, I see two things happen. I see people run companies for too long that they should have shut down years ago. I also see people trying something for 5 minutes. It doesn't magically succeed overnight, and they get frustrated and then shut it down or quit too soon. You know, so there's definitely a happy middle ground of sort of put in the effort and get the data back so that you can see that it is or isn't working, and then make, you know, the decisions on what you're going to do. So it's hard to find that line, but I definitely see both sides of it, where people run things for way too long and are sort of deluded. I mean, I'm the guiltiest of that. We should have shut down our first product after 2 years, not 4, you know? And so those extra 2 years were very much just dragging a dead horse behind us. So, you know, when we then finally shut it down, it also gave us an opportunity to focus our energy on something else that was going to be more useful and more beneficial for everybody. And it took a couple of tries before we finally found the thing. But if we had just given up after 2 weeks on our first product, then we never would have made it here either. So there's definitely a happy medium of trying to understand, you know, how much effort you should be putting into something.
Right. Well, so I personally think that the personal development, my own personal development, so like my own personal growth in learning and in knowing new things, is very important also for my own company. I was about you. I mean, I use all type of possible resources to improve my knowledge about things, to know more about how to run a company, how to, you know, improve my services, how to make better websites, how to anything, pretty much anything in that range. So how is it with you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I've always been a very curious person. So like as a kid, I was that kid with a million questions that just kept asking until my dad was like, okay, stop. Like, you know, so I've always been that way. And I think that as an entrepreneur, you sort of have to have that curiosity. My thing is, as a teacher, you know, I think teachers should never stop learning, because it's your responsibility as a teacher to be as knowledgeable as you could possibly be about your thing, so that you can impart that information onto your students. And as a business owner, it's the same thing. If I just stopped keeping up with the trends of the industry, then I would just slowly fall behind, you know. And you made a good example with, like, in college, you get a business plan, but you don't necessarily know how to execute on that plan. And I had a very similar experience where in school, I was fortunate enough to do an entrepreneur thing in college. And that's where we developed our first product. And when we graduated from college, we actually turned that into a company. But it wasn't the knowledge from college that got me to where I am now. No offense to Berkeley, it's a fantastic music school, but I learned 10,000 times more in the 10 years that I've been outside of the school than I did at the school. Yeah, I got a good foundation at college, and like sort of the mindset of how to approach things. But I think that's also, like I was saying, I've always been a curious person. So I already kind of had that, like, I just want to know stuff. Like
Right.
I'm the person with the a million random facts. So like I can just I have a book on the side of my bed that's called a thousand useless things to know. And it's just completely random information, but I love it because I just that's my personality. So I personally think that one, especially if you do have a college degree, there's this sort of assumption that like, oh cool, I did it, like I'm good now, like I'm learning done. It's like that couldn't be
Sure.
further from the truth. Is that again, school should just teach you how to learn, not what to learn. And then it's your responsibility once you go out in the world to actually find the entrepreneur groups, find the resources, find the people, and then continuously learn from them. Like I'm currently in an entrepreneur group. We meet once a month. There's 6 or 7 of us that get together and we share business ideas, we help each other out with problems, and that's something we put together on our own. It's not some formal entity. There's no like sign up form or something. Like we just contacted each other, realized it would be a good idea to get together and did it, and that's been fantastic for me because I learn on my own great, but when I'm able to say something out loud to the group and I've got 5 people being like, oh well, have you thought of this? Oh, I did this and this worked, or those are the ways that you really enhance your knowledge. And nowadays, I mean, there's no shortage of courses, of programs, of coaching things. Like even Musi, we offer a coaching program. It's like there's no shortage of that information
Yeah.
available to you. And so it is your responsibility to be the curious one and to continue pushing. And at Musi, our motto is basically, if it helps you teach or it helps your students learn, then that's something we're interested in.
Yeah.
And that I take to heart, is that you should really never stop learning. And if you do, then I think as a teacher, you're doing a disservice to your students. And as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, you're doing a disservice to yourself. If
Yeah.
you want to be successful, you need to be the most knowledgeable person about your thing. And if you're not, then go and seek out the people who are and learn from them. And
Yeah. Do you know that Napoleon Hill had a boardroom in his mind
oh,
with
really?
yes. So he basically created a boardroom, a board, and so in this board there were people he thought were helpful to him. They were maybe dead. I don't know, but they weren't existing. They weren't they were just in his
Yeah.
mind. But in his mind, he was having a conversation about
Yeah.
problems he was having with the most knowledgeable person in that field, and then he was imagining how they would answer if they,
Yeah.
I
No, I
have
love that. That's brilliant. I honestly, I do that quite a lot. I definitely have the like voice in my head that
don't
that is
say
like yelling at me all the time. That's like I'm a little guilty of talking to myself. Apparently, I don't even notice I'm doing it, but I've been called out by my other half, who will be like, what you doing in there?" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You're talking to yourself again." And it's like, and because I'm having full conversations with like other variations of myself that are trying to like take the devil's advocate, like, and be like, oh well, have you thought, well, don't do that, do that, don't try that, and I'm trying to hash out ideas back and forth. I think it's a great way to really flush something out so that you can see it from all perspectives. And then it is, once you've done that, then bring it to other people and have them literally hear it out, and because they'll give answers that you never would have even
right.
suspected that someone might say, and so you couldn't even imagine those yourself. But I honestly, I love that, because that's basically half of what I'm doing anyway. It's just
There's also a technique called quantum jumping, and you jump basically in a version of yourself that it is in a different parallel universe. Always during
oh,
meditation, you can
cool.
do that, and then you imagine how that person who has achieved whatever you want to achieve would behave and would
Oh,
talk,
I love
would
that.
yeah, it's a good thing to imagine yourself in a different setting, in a different
Yeah.
context, with a different role maybe, and then being a little bit more confident, being a little bit more assertive. I don't know,
Yeah.
if you would be rich and famous, how would you behave?
How
How would you
that's
talk?
brilliant. I love that, actually, because I mean there's a lot of like manifestation ideas, like the idea, because like I do really believe that if you can't envision yourself doing the thing, then you will never get there, because
Yes.
you have, it's like, music's a great example. Can you picture yourself getting on stage and playing the piece? If the answer is no, then you will never get on stage and play that
Yeah.
piece. If
Yes.
you can, in your mind's eye, if you can see the audience, if you can feel the lights on you, you know, if you can feel the chair and feel the instrument under your fingers, and imagine the sensation of playing and completing that piece of music, then you're 50% there. Like, now you've just got to execute, you
Yes.
know. But the other part of it is, I heard a quote the other day that was, I can't say the full quote because it had a lot of had a lot of explicit language in it, but basically it was, don't become beholden to or don't let your dreams rule you. You need to rule your dreams. So if
Yes.
all you do is sit in a chair and daydream about things that, you know, that you want to happen, but you take no action
Yes.
to actually execute on those dreams, then you are, oh, your dreams own you. And if
Right.
you have dreams, but then you make a laundry list of items that need to get done in order to reach that dream, then you own the dream. And I think it's brilliant, because it's so true. You could have the most fanciful dreams in the world, but if you're not willing to actually execute on those dreams, it is just a dream. It's like,
Yeah.
and in entrepreneurship, I mean, this is a good example, is the idea or the execution the more important thing? And I
Yeah.
believe it's the execution, because anybody can have an idea, but only a certain amount of people can execute on that idea. So,
Yeah, so there's
you know,
always this compound effect. You know, you do
yeah,
this once, a little step today, and then a little step tomorrow, and then a little bit more the next day, and then you see things growing. But if you
yeah,
don't actually work on that, and then you don't, try to pivot yourself and say, okay, so this doesn't work. This doesn't work, and I'm
yeah,
doing this, and then I just keep going, right? And then
absolutely,
you keep going, and then you will achieve something.
absolutely.
I remember I was teaching in college, and a colleague of mine who had been there, was retiring, told me, "Oh yes, one day this my place will be yours." I looked at him and I was like, "No,
Yeah.
no, I don't want that." Because I envision myself being him, being still
Yep.
teaching in college,
And you're like,
like
oh, that's not my dream. Like,
no,
that's
I
not
felt
where I
like
see
I
myself.
was dead. I was like,
Yeah.
I would die if I would do that, because
Yep.
that's not me. That doesn't reflect who I am as a person. I'm
Yeah.
curious like you. I love learning. I love experimenting new things. In a setting like college, now you are supposed to teach just whatever you are supposed to teach. You
Right.
cannot really just say, "Oh, today I want to do this. Just let's try." Right? You can't do that because
Yep. Yeah, there's
uh,
no flexibility there
no,
to sort of experiment, which is, that's
yes,
the fun thing about being an entrepreneur, is that you do have that flexibility to experiment. Is that you, at the end of the day, you are the owner of the business. You are the person who, is making the big decisions, and half the fun of that is trying things that you have no idea if they're going to work or not. Like, that's a part of the excitement of doing this, is like even with Musi, we've got this feature coming out soon that is completely different from anything we've ever done before. It almost doesn't have much to, as almost nothing to do with teaching music lessons. And it's one of those things, like, we're just going to try it just to see if it doesn't work, then okay, lesson learned, we'll get rid of it and we'll just continue on. But if it does work, we might open up a new door that we never knew existed. And
right.
so I love the ability to sort of take on those challenges and just try things out and see what happens. Half of why I'm here now is just trying things that, and a lot of them did not work. I'd say 90% of them didn't work. If I was to take
Okay.
the list of like literal ideas I've had that did not execute, there are way more that didn't than did. But the ones that did only came to be because I tried so many things and was willing to just keep iterating and iterating on those designs and ideas until I found something that stuck. And what you're just saying, about like looking at someone where they are and being like, no, that's not what I want, is I really relate to that, because when I was a kid, my dad would tell me, a story about when he was about 20 years old. He used to play in professional heavy metal bands and toured the country with like Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath, and like proper big 15,000 seat arenas and everything. And then that all kind of fell apart, and he found himself working in a hospital, being a porter, which was pushing the bodies from room to room.
Right.
And he vividly remembers one day working there, and a guy he worked with was about 60 years old, and said to my dad, he's like, "Oh, I started when I was about your age." And he said, he's like, "That was the moment that I realized that if I don't do something, that
Yeah.
I will spend the next 40 years of my life doing nothing but pushing people from room to room."
Yeah.
And when my dad turned 60, a couple of years ago, he kind of said, he was like, "Imagine if I had not done anything, and that at like today, I would be waking up at 8 o'clock for my shift at the hospital again for the
Okay.
40th year in a row." And he was like, if anything, that guy was like the greatest lesson for him,
Yeah.
to be like, I don't want my life to turn into that. And I think you have to, like I was saying, I worked in corporate jobs and I literally worked in a windowless room, that in a cubicle with a headset on, making 80 phone calls a day, and just being like, "Hi, do you want to buy this thing that I couldn't care less about?" And 2 years of that, and I was like, okay, I need to do something with my life. Like, otherwise, in 40 years, I'm going to be sick, because I was working with people 50, 60 years old doing the job I was doing at 20. And I was like, oh no, like, if
Yeah.
you really don't put in the effort, like, there's no
Yeah.
magic that's gonna like whisk you out of here and make your life amazing or something. That's entirely on you to manage. And it takes a long time to realize that for a lot of people. And I think I was lucky enough for like my dad to have had that experience, and then he went off and built companies, and was very much an entrepreneur. And then that definitely bled into me. And I mean, we together own Musi. So like, this is, I don't know, his like seventh company or something. And for me, it's, technically my first, but it's our third product within the company itself. And, I've
Yeah.
done other jobs and things around that have made me realize, like, okay, yeah, like, if I don't keep pushing this ship forward, it will stop. Like,
Mhm.
it's not a perpetual motion machine. Like, you have to put in that effort to drive it forward continuously.
Yeah, but the good thing is that, I mean, compared to being an employee somewhere,
Mhm.
right? Being on salary somewhere, especially here in the United States. If you're in Europe, maybe your rights as a worker, they're, you are protected. You
Yeah,
cannot get
bit more.
fired.
Yeah.
You get your retirement.
Yep.
You just work a certain number of hours. In Europe, you are not supposed to work more than
Yep.
a certain number of hours. So now here, I recently discovered that if you're on salary here, they can expect you to work 60 hours a day. They don't care.
Oh, yeah, they don't care. Yeah, I mean, every single one of my friends that I mean, honestly, the way I look at it is, I have a lot of friends who have really high paying, like, technical jobs, and they work, companies salaried, they'll technically make more money than I do, like, day in and day out. They've got
Yeah.
massive salaries that are like, eye-watering numbers. And part of me is sometimes a little like envious of that, like, because they'll get to go on a vacation or something that I couldn't afford. But at the same time, I have full control of my life every day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that, because, like, to me, I'm not money motivated. So like, my entrepreneurship vision is not how much cash do I make at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I'm I'm probably bad as an entrepreneur for like that side of things, because I genuinely don't really care. And enough to cover the bills is my basic, that's really
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
need. But for me, I'm more interested in building something. I want a
Yeah.
legacy. Arrogantly, I want an empire of music education that will supersede me, that will go on. And
Yeah.
fortunately, Musi kind of already has, in a way where, like, we start seeing users in countries all over the world pop up. And it's like, this is beyond me telling people about our thing. And now it's just organically sort of flowing. And that
Yeah.
is the greatest feeling ever. Like, I remember when I was younger and I'd play in a band, I'd get on stage and I'd get this sort of feeling. It would be at some point during the show that I was in the right place doing the right thing and that everything was perfect. Like, and I just remember that sensation. It was almost like a spine tingling, like,
Yeah.
yes, like this is who I am and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Now I get that feeling when a new student is on Musi, or a new teacher's on Musi, or someone reaches out and tells us how great their lesson was, or like that exact same sensation of like, I'm doing the thing I'm supposed to be doing. Like, and that's really what I'm hunting. I'm always hunting that feeling of like,
Yeah.
and like the, making money off of your business is important, but to me that's secondary to doing something important.
Yeah, and then I think that's a good way of seeing things, especially because, I mean, if you work for somebody else, it doesn't matter how how good of a worker you are.
Yeah.
You're still following their vision, their
Yeah.
ideas, their things,
Yep.
and you don't have control over that. You cannot do that. You can just
And
like say, okay, I want to do a little bit
yeah.
more. I just wish to do it more. You're doing that for a good reason, because you believe in that cause, and it's very important, I think, to see that, and I see that in the future too, because right now with a lot of this technology, AI, and for example, I use AI ChatGPT as my personal assistant.
Yep. Me too.
Can you answer this email? Can you formulate this thing? Can you
Yep.
build this? And I take that idea, I reformulate that. Maybe I just adjust that, and I have it done, right? And it's much faster right now.
Yep.
But I think many jobs where things are repetitive are going to be substituted very soon by AI. And our school system, universities included,
Yeah.
are not prepared to actually educate students that they have to take control of their lives and then do something else, not expect to be a secretary or to work in a job where you're just assisting people doing that type of things, because that's not going to work anymore. You have to be more independent, more in the more an entrepreneur in your life than before.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I 100% agree. I think AI, I mean, we even have AI built into Musi. I think we're technically the first music education company in the world to implement AI into our product. We did it over a year ago. And so we're quite well versed in the whole the AI sort of dilemma. And I completely agree. It's usually the jobs people don't think will be affected by AI that are the ones that absolutely can be. And even like the level of which robotics is getting to at this point is, if you've not seen the Tesla, the Optimus version 2, it's a robot with hands and it looks like a human. And there's a video recently of it folding laundry and like doing so very well. And there's a lot of other sort of advancements. The thing with technology is it currently advances at an exponential rate. So every year it's not just twice as good as it was, it's 10 times as good as it was. And that doesn't slow down, or hasn't for a long time. And I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. So I completely agree. Repetitive tasks will be replaced by AI. Like, I mean, what you just said is a perfect example. I could go out and hire 5 more people, or I could use an AI to do the jobs of those 5 people. Which do you think I'm going to choose? It's AI. I mean, and I do exactly what you do. I have an AI that I've basically trained. Do you have like the custom GPTs?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I have one called Sambot, and Sambot is me. And I trained it on over 3,000 pages of documents that from every interview I've ever done, from every recording I've ever created, every document I've ever written. And there was over 3,000 pages of content. And I have trained this AI to think and answer questions like I do. And so I do exactly. I haven't written an email in over a year. I literally just
Yeah.
copy the email, give it to Sambot, and bang, I've got an email. And the wording is exactly how I would
Yeah.
phrase it. And
Yes.
then, but better, like there's always like,
Yes.
it thinks of things
Eh,
I would never have,
yeah, it's faster.
faster,
Uh,
definitely faster.
yeah, it's sometimes kinder and more
Yeah, yeah.
polite.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I very often will be like, respond to this kindly or compassionately, because I might be frustrated. Like I might get an email that is
Yes.
an annoying email, that
Yes.
like someone's being rude or someone's just not understanding, what's going on. And then instead of me being like, sending out some rash, like,
Yes.
thing, I can give it to Sambot and he's always very polite and
Yes.
sometimes too polite. So I kind of like dial that back so it still sounds like me. But those things. I mean, every Facebook post in our Musi teacher group has been written and like I come up with the ideas. Obviously, I
Yeah.
tell it what I need, but the actual text of it is just written by the AI version of me. And
Yes.
we're even working on some help uh tools inside of Musi that the first version I'm going to do myself, but the second version is absolutely going to be AI. And we've
Yes.
already looked at how we're going to execute on it. So it will be basically me walking you through the product. And
Mhm.
then as these avatars get good enough, you can actually scan your own face, clone your voice, and you can just type up a script and it will just be like a video of you talking, but it's not
Yeah.
you at all. Like, but it
Yes.
looks like you, it sounds like you, it acts like you. I mean, to me, I get some people at this point are terrified because they're like, this sounds like a dystopian future. But the way I look at it is in a productivity sense. Like, if this is helping you move forward as a business, if I
Yeah.
can literally, people always joke, if I could clone myself, I could get 10 times the things done.
Yes.
Well, now you kind of can. It's like you literally can clone yourself and be able to execute at a much higher level. Like I have another version of Sambot who basically specializes in social media content. It's
Mhm.
like, and that is not just my knowledge, but then grabbing from the knowledge of the greater internet that can then supplement things that I don't know. And so that I'm literally able to make variations of myself that are able to execute on tasks at a higher level than I ever could. Now I still
Yeah.
take charge of, we do a demo for Musi. Like I want to do that personally because I want to see the teachers. I want to communicate with the teachers. I want to still understand what's going on in the world, but it means I don't need to answer every single chat support message, or I don't need to
Right.
answer every single email, and because those are honestly things that usually are distractions from what I should really be focusing on, which is growing the business and sort of creating new partnerships and the things that currently humans do need to do. But I completely agree. Repetitive tasks are heavily going to be replaced by AI. And I mean, we
Yeah.
saw in 2020, I mean, over the last 4 years, how many tech jobs were lost.
Mhm.
Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe close to 1 million jobs were all just cut. Basically, Google will fire 15,000 people. It's like, that's an insane amount of workforce to just get left
Right.
hanging. And then now what, So like you're saying, if you're just going to be a cog in the machine, then you're going to be treated like a cog in the machine and replaced when you're no longer needed. And
Yeah.
to me, that like I said, I'd rather make no money and run my own thing than make all the money and be the replaceable entity. Now, that's entirely that's my own personality trait.
Yeah.
And I like my friends who work in these companies with high paying jobs, they like it. Like they're happy to take the big paycheck and go on the extra vacations and not have to have the stress of managing the entire ship. Where to me, I kind of thrive on the chaos. Like as much as I need my routine to get things done, I just personally love the unexpected day-to-day things that occur as the entrepreneur. Like I love doing this kind of stuff. Like I love talking and explaining things and meeting people and sharing knowledge. And if I was an employee at a company, I wouldn't be the one up here getting to getting to communicate and learn from you and learn from the audience. And like, those are the things that I personally love. So, you've got to love it, because it's a hell of a lot of work. But if you do, and you're willing to put in the time, then honestly, there's nothing better in the world than building something.
Yeah, it is so rewarding because every day there is something new. Now today I have the interview with you, and then tomorrow I will have something else, and then on Saturday something else will happen. I think 2 weeks ago I was in the jury for a startup competition, the pitch competition in a university, and I'm collaborating with them and in helping students become entrepreneurs, which is very beautiful. And then I had the idea, maybe I could just develop a program so that students could take advantage of that a little bit more. But you have that possibility just because you are free to do your things and then expand your things as much as you want. So there is no limit. It's not that somebody's telling me, oh no, that's the limit. That's
Oh, don't do that. Don't do this. Oh no, I don't want you working on that project. I want you working on this thing instead. It's
right.
like, I can't. I just can't do that. And I'm sure most people listening are either own studios or teachers, and you are an entrepreneur because you started your own business. And I know a lot of music teachers who don't really consider themselves entrepreneurs, or don't really think of that like what I do and what they do is the same thing, but it is. It really is. It's, you're the one making those final decisions, and you're the one executing on the tasks, and you're the one coming up with all the ideas. So, at the end of the day, you are an entrepreneur. And whether or not you think you are, I would recommend you start thinking that you are, because the sooner you can kind of wrap your head around that, the more fun it becomes. Like because if you're just treating it like, oh no, things are happening and I'm reacting, then it's not that great, because you're always on the back foot and you're always like just trying to keep the ship afloat. Once you realize that you're the captain and you get to decide where this thing sails, then it becomes really exciting, because it's like, well, I'm going to go visit that island over there. And then, actually, let's go visit that one. Or, let's go over there now. And you are allowed to do that. And like I said, not everything works. In my own personal experience, most things don't work. And learning from those failures is how you get better at directing where you need to go and what you should be spending your time doing. And
yes, they published an article that I wrote about branding for music teachers. It was based on that idea that you should brand yourself. You should see yourself as an entrepreneur, and then give a direction to your customer and say, okay, so that's who I am. That's what I do. And, this is what you get if you come to me to get lessons. I might be specialized in pop music and rock music and classical music, whatever it is. You have to communicate that, and not just, I just teach piano. And that's different. Right?
Yeah. You are the brand. And even with Musi, like, Musi's bigger than me now, but at the same time, like, I'm very much the face of the business. Like, I definitely am a part of the brand. If I just disappeared tomorrow, yes, Musi could keep going. It would be different, but it in itself could keep moving forward. But I am definitely a direct influence on how things move forward. And that's because I want to be. That's because I enjoy the role of sort of getting involved, where I know other business owners who just want to get to the point where they can then take as much time off as possible. And I think there's a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur. There's two different mindsets. Like, yes, you might both be starting companies, and yes, you're both growing a thing. But there's a certain, like if I was ever to sell Musi, I would start another company the next day. Like, there would be, maybe I'll take a week off, but then I would be immediately to my idea pad and be like, all right, which one of these are we trying next? Like, to me, there's no end. Like, this doesn't ever stop. And I think that's it's a mindset thing. Like, you just, like, I don't know, I want to create things. I want to leave the world better than when you got here. And for me, that's through music. And when you see students coming in and having amazing lessons, and then the coolest thing ever actually was the first time one of our, like, someone had been taking lessons on music as a student, they basically graduated, so to speak, from taking lessons and became a music teacher and
Wow.
used music to teach their lessons. And I was like, and we've only been around for 4 years, so it's like, there hasn't been too much time to see the whole next generation. But this student was probably like 18 when music started, and now
Yeah.
they're 22, and now they're teaching their own students. And like, that's the coolest thing in the world, to see this like generational impact that you can have on education. And for me, education that's my thing. It's to me, it's the most important thing that we can be spending our time working on. So, that's why I love what I do. And yeah, I wouldn't trade it. Is fantastic.
Yeah. What suggestions would you give to somebody who would like to become a musicpreneur and then an entrepreneur in music business? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest network. I mean, this very cliche again, but networks. You've got to network with people. You cannot do it alone. There is no individual who is going to change the world. No matter how much you think like Elon Musk might be the like most famous individual right now, he's still not an individual. He's got tens of thousands of employees that execute on all of these brilliant ideas, and advisors and other people at his level that help him shape those things. So yeah, he might get all the press, but in the reality of it is it's actually hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are contributing to that sort of mindset and idea. And it works the same at any level. Is if you want to become an entrepreneur, you need to network with other people who are in that industry, and try to find people who are ahead of you. Try to find, or at least level with you. Like the entrepreneur group that I have, like we meet monthly, and we're all we're all within the same range of sort of what we do, and but everyone works on something slightly different within the music education space, and so we're able to pick each other's brains without being like direct competitors or anything. And I think too many people are afraid of competitors, where you're afraid that like if you share this information with someone that they're gonna like steal it and outdo you. That's not how it works. Information can be found anywhere. You could go on Google or on ChatGPT and just ask it questions till the end of time. But if you're not networking and getting your name out there and actually learning from people who have already done the things that you're trying to do, then you're not really going to learn very much. And it's going to be a really, really slow burn if you try to do it all alone. So I would say to sort of shake the idea that if you share your information, it's going to somehow not benefit you, because it will benefit you from sharing information with other people, because they will then share information with you, and it works both ways. You're really all in it together. And then I would find, like I said, I would literally seek out coaches and programs and things that are in the industry you want to do it and push forward. There's endless amounts of resources that you can find. But yeah, I would just, my mom always says, do something and something will happen. If you do nothing, nothing happens. So simple. It's so true.
So Sam, I let you go for today. I know you dedicated to us a lot of your time, and thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And I hope to talk to you very soon again. And,
yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.